You can't start the car. Johnny has the keys.
Hello, hello, hello out there in podcast land. You have reached Johnny Has the Keys, where we talk about horror movies and science fiction films and those key elements that lift them above the average genre fare. I am here today. I am Tim, and I am with my co-host, David. Hello, David. How are you?
Hello, Tim. I am well. How are you?
I am well. I am concentrating on not saying as much.
Is a word you are removing from your vocabulary?
It annoys me when I go back and listen to our podcast, so I am trying to speak slower and more clearly and with less interjection. There's an interjection for you. So, how are you doing this week? What's going on in your genre world?
I am doing well. There's enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, genre-wise, the only really thing I did was I watched a few episodes of Star Trek, the animated series that came out after the original, but before Next Generation. And
what platform
one of the reasons
is that
I watched it,
What platform is that on, or do you own them?
You can get it on the Netflix, has it. And I watched them because, with Paramount and CBS becoming one huge entity now with Paramount Plus, and with Star Trek, they basically own all of the Star Trek properties now.
Can I stop you for a second? I don't know the story behind that. Does that mean Paramount Plus is CBS All Access?
Correct. There is no longer a CBS All Access as of March.
Okay, I was just discussing this with David. I'm like, how are they doing this when they already have CBS All Access? Okay.
Correct. It is now Paramount Plus, and pretty soon, I just saw a thing advertised that pretty soon there's going to be Discovery Plus, and it's going to be the Discovery. Well, mostly all of the true crime crap will all be under one umbrella of Discovery Plus because everybody's copying Disney. But Paramount Plus now owns all the TV rights and the film rights to Star Trek. So they're all under one umbrella. They used to be divided. It was television series and movies, and you couldn't combine them or go, parallel them or whatever. Now they can. So they can essentially create their Marvel franchise with Star Trek, which they've done.
Disney still has issues with that because Sony owns some of them.
I think they did, and now that's been taken care of too.
Well, so they've made a deal with Spider-Man.
Right, and Fantastic Four now is them, and X-Men are now them, and all that.
And and Dennis knows more about this than I do, but Universal has a 50-year deal where they still own some of it for their theme park. Yeah,
well, good. They should. I like Universal's theme park a lot. I like all of them. But
sorry about interrupting. I just was curious. Yeah.
No, it's good. It's good knowledge. It's good stuff out there for our listeners who are listening. Because pretty soon you probably will have to have a Paramount Plus subscription in order to watch any Star Trek movies or television or original series, any of that. But the reason I watched the animated was because I remember it fondly. I've watched the entire, it's only 12 episodes. I've watched them repeatedly, of course. But one of the new series that has been on for CBS All Access was Lower Decks, the animated, essentially new version of Star Trek. And I haven't watched it yet, so I must say I'm jaundiced or jaded because I don't want to watch it. It doesn't look good in any of the trailers. I don't like the attitude, so I probably won't watch it. And I know people have felt the same way about the animated series, but I don't. I think the animated series, if you look back, it had great writers. I mean, there's a Harlan Ellison story. There's a David Gerald story. It had some great writers again. And basically what they did was they couldn't get the series off the ground again in the early 70s. So somebody said, hey, could we just do an animated thing? So the animation is terrible. And I've mentioned it on the podcast
Yeah,
before.
it
The
looks
animation
like
is
Johnny
terrible.
Quest, like some kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
Asian crap. Yeah.
Yep. Well, it was. I think Filmation is the company that did the animation for it.
Hmm.
But it had all the same voice actors. And that was based on a lot of stuff with, even Nimoy saying, I refuse to come back unless you have Nichelle Nichols and, Walter, and
I
Walt.
remember talking about that. Mhm.
Yeah. James Doohan and Majel Barrett Roddenberry do a bunch of voices for it.
They're like the remainder of cast, aren't they?
Yeah.
Don't they do all the extra voices or something?
It introduces like some cool aliens to the bridge, like Erex and Maress and a bunch of the new characters that are actually cool. And it's little half-hour shows, so you can watch it really quick. You could get through the entire series in like before lunch, sort of thing. And it's got some interesting concepts to it, which I would love to see expanded. I think they would make cool episodes of the new Trek universe rather than letting Quentin Tarantino try his hand at doing a Star Trek movie.
I have a better idea.
Yes, what's your idea?
Let's get Jon Favreau to do it. And he can look at the animated and the original series and bring all that together, just like they did with Star Wars.
He can't, because he's the new George Lucas. He's the new Star Wars, so he can't.
Well, they need to find a Jon Favreau equivalent. Is what
we do. Actually, for Star Trek, we really do. We need one, and it is not freaking Alex Kurtzman. Okay, stated for the record, that man should not be in charge of Star Trek like he is now.
Or J.J. Abrams. Right.
No, oh God, no. No, God, no. No. Did you see Abrams' new thing? The one about meteorite particles. It's called Debris. It's a new series for like CBS or whatever. And it's fringe. It's people find little bitty pieces of meteorite and they have different properties. Some make you levitate. Some give you special powers, blah, 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 blah. Here's the big mystery.
Sounds like a superhero show.
It is. It's a superhero meets J.J. Abrams' old mystery box story of, I'm going to ask a bunch of questions like Lost, but I'm never going to answer anything. We're just going to have a bunch of puzzles.
Okay.
Anyway, I'll shut up. What have you been doing, Tim?
Well, no, I just started to say something and I was like, no, I'm not going to say it because we're going to talk about it probably in a bonus episode anyway. Okay. Well, this week I decided to go back and revisit a director I recently discovered who only has like 2 or 3 movies, and I wish he had more. His name is Sean Byrne, and he did a little film called The Loved Ones. This movie is about 84 minutes of sheer brutality.
Is that a prom queen with a drill?
It is. And then
Tim is showing a picture of a prom queen with a drill for those of you listening on the podcast. And it's a poster, I guess, for The Loved Ones. Yes. Okay. Sorry.
It is. His name is Sean Byrne. I mentioned him a few weeks back on a podcast. He also did a movie called The Devil's Candy. He jumps around. I haven't read enough to know his history because there probably isn't that much out there. But he is originally from Tasmania, and this is an Australian film. The Devil's Candy, however, I'm fairly certain was a Canadian film. So, but this one is distinctly Aussie. I mean, you hear it in the accents. And
anyway, like down under.
If I had, I don't want to give too much away because you need to watch this.
No, I really do.
I mean, there's a little bit of torture porn in there, but there's a hell of a lot more misery and carry and I don't know. There's a lot going on in this movie. There's a lot of influence behind this movie. Even a little bit of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So I highly recommend it. It got like a 99 on Rotten Tomatoes. It got higher than The Devil's Candy, even though I think I may like The Devil's Candy a little bit more because it's a little more supernatural. This one's not supernatural at all. This one just has crazy people in it.
Okay. Crazy people, crazy prom queens.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone out there in podcast land has caught on, but a lot of these movies may eventually be future movies on our podcast.
I am sure they might. These are all teasers. This is our pre-credit teaser sequence scenes.
Right. They're my screening pre-test.
Right.
So,
right.
So anyway, it was his first movie, and like Devil's Candy, it made the indie circuit. I think it premiered at Sundance, and they have some category at Sundance that's like
torture porn,
after dark or midnight movie or something that I have a feeling has to do with like scary movies.
Oh, okay.
And it was like the lead on that, or the Devil's Candy was. I may be getting them confused.
I think you're right. After Dark or something like that, because I think I remember the remake of The Evil Dead was in that category.
Okay.
You know, the really bloodbathy one by what's his name?
The straight out horror movies, pretty much.
Yes.
And this one is no exception. There's a lot of blood in this movie.
Okay. Okay.
So anyway, yes, highly recommended. The Loved Ones. It's on Amazon. If you want to watch it right now, go out and find it.
Pretty people with weapons. So that works perfect for what we're going to talk about today.
It sure does. And you also mentioned meteorites earlier, and that's what I was locked in on. I was thinking about bug meteorites for some reason.
Bug meteorites. For those of you who have listened through the beginning of this, we are now going to cover our movie for the week, which happens to be 1997's epic Beverly Hills 90210 meets science fiction, Starship Troopers. The movie, like I said, was 1997, directed by Paul Verhoeven. It was written by Edward Neumeier, but with a lot of help from Verhoeven, and loosely based on the novel by Robert Heinlein. Synopsis, fairly simply. Tim put it that pretty, what did you say? Pretty people?
Paul directs Pretty People Propaganda.
Yeah.
Lots of P's.
Lots of P's for that. Basically in the distant, although it doesn't look like it, distant future, the school children are encouraged to join the military to become citizens in a dystopic fascist sort of society that is where Earth is now. We follow 4 really high school kids as they graduate and go off into the military in various ways, and as they fight an alien race of arachnids in the distant quadrant of the clan what is it?
Klendathu, wasn't it?
Klendathu.
It's very similar to the Day the Earth Stood Still word, Klendathu. It's very similar to that, just like Klendathu or something, I think.
It's Klendathu, yeah. Which is the alien bugs planet. It's an interesting story plot, because it basically starts with an epic, in a very Verhoeven style, starts with a propaganda commercial that then shows a camera feed that then goes, and then we suddenly cut to a year earlier, and we're watching a flashback all the way up to that moment, which happens about halfway through the movie, and then we get the rest of the story told after that. Tim, what's your initial reaction to the lovely Starship Troopers?
I saw this movie when it first came out on DVD. Or actually, it would have been on videotape.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was 97, wasn't it? Yeah. So I rented it, and I watched it, and I didn't remember it, and I haven't watched it since. So when I watched it again, I was not expecting much, but I enjoyed it. It's a popcorn movie. It's one of those check your brains at the box office and come in and just, enjoy it for the violence and the great special effects and pretty people. There's some hot naked people in this movie too. So
it's interesting you said that, because two of my keys are essentially Armageddon and Independence Day, two other popcorn movies.
Oh,
However, this one I think has a lot more underneath it. You know, this movie got very bad reception when it first came out. It was received very badly. It didn't make a lot of money. It wasn't very good because most people saw it as a fascist film, like honoring or elevating fascism, and that's exactly
glorifying
the opposite.
War.
Yeah, that's exactly the opposite of what Verhoeven meant.
I think he did it intentionally. I think
Correct.
It's done as like a joke,
a satire. The whole thing is a satire. The whole movie is a satire, which is interesting because when you go, and we might talk about it when we talk about history or whatever, but the reason Verhoeven wrote the script the way he did with Neumeier was he wanted to make fun of war and the fact that war is the only way fascism stays in power, is if you go to war and keep everybody in a war frame kind of thing, which he said he wanted to tell that story because Heinlein's book praised war and said it was the only way to do things and da 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 da. And that is not true at all. He totally misinterpreted Heinlein's book.
I was going to ask you about that because I've never read Heinlein. And I was curious because I know of another science fiction writer I've mentioned, Orson Scott Card, that is very backwards on his personal views. And I was wondering if Heinlein was another sci-fi writer that was that way as well.
Heinlein's novel is actually a very leftist view of how a fascist society will never work. But it's done, his is not a parody or a satire. His is done with a straightforward narrative story that's much different than this. But underlying all of that is how horrible all of this is, and how this is not the way to do things. And so in intent, even though his intent was totally different, Verhoeven ended up creating a similar thematic piece to what the novel is, because his satire is, again, saying fascism doesn't work, people.
And that's what Heinlein was originally trying to say.
Correct.
Okay.
Because militarism
I always imagine, and I'm often proved wrong, but I often imagine that sci-fi writers and most writers in general of fiction are leftists or idea people, progressive. Yeah. And when I come across someone like Orson Scott Card, who doesn't seem that way to me at all, it always kind of throws me for a loop.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there are people out there that appreciate that, and I don't think they listen to our podcast. I could be wrong, but
possibly not. No. Well, what did you? I mean, I will say that this is very similar, and a big key to this is, you know, Verhoeven's work in general. He likes pretty people and puts pretty people in all of his movies, and Michael Ironsides. You know, if he had found a place for him, I'm sure in Showgirls, he would have put him in it. But he loves world building. And even Showgirls, which is this world building of this not realistic at all, so do fake Las Vegas thing. You know, this is that. So is Total Recall. So is RoboCop. But he uses, just like in RoboCop and Total Recall, I mean, all three of those could be his trilogy, his sci-fi trilogy, because they all seem to take place in around the same world. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I do.
But he uses these fake commercials, these little ads, these funky sort of interstitials that cut the action in half all the way through it. In this one, it's always going to, I mean, their version of the Fox News channel. You know, it's the FedNet or whatever. And it's always...
I love where it says click if you want, you know, more or whatever across the top.
Yeah.
And that was before I even had a computer.
Yeah. Think about that. To me, that was very prescient because that was very 1997. I mean, it was done in 97, but it's happening today.
Exactly.
You know, of click if you want to learn more, you know, sort of thing. So, but it's very Verhoeven. Did you like that structure or that style or that kind of, because it is very jarring in places. It's suddenly, boom, now we're going to have narration.
To me, it just, it's all part of the whole popcorn thing. It's just bright and showy. I am not a Paul Verhoeven fan at all.
Mm-hmm.
I think his movies could be better. And I think one of the reasons they're not is I don't think he knows how to cast. I think he likes to put pretty people in as opposed to people that have good chops.
Well, I agree with that.
And
I
it
think
may
his
also affect
casting-
his screenplays as well. I don't know if he writes them, but he selects them, obviously.
I would have to say, a lot of people, cinephiles, say that, Michael Bay is their guilty pleasure. That they
Right.
like his popcorn movie. They like things blowing up. They like
I love
Transformers,
Armageddon, and that movie's so stupid, but I love that movie.
Yeah, Armageddon makes no sense at all.
No,
but,
not at all, but it's great destruction. I mean,
but I would have to say one of my guilty pleasures is probably Paul Verhoeven. I could watch his movies and just let them run.
okay.
Basic Instinct,
A lot of nudity.
Showgirls.
A lot of nudity.
Yeah, there's nudity in it that works for me fairly well. There's usually some form of bondage imagery and places in it, which I kind of find intriguing at times when I watch my movies. And there's also a science fiction element to his sci-fi pieces, or horror, which is Basic Instinct.
Is that horror?
There's also some weird kind of, Basic Instinct is horror. It's a thriller.
It's a thriller. Yeah, I don't consider that horror. But
well, okay. We have to divide that thriller horror kind of thing.
Right. Well, I don't consider Wait Until Dark horror either.
The woman boils a rabbit. For God's sake,
that's
Tim.
that's Fatal Attraction, not Basic Instinct.
That's right. Basic Instinct is
That's
I slept with the wrong woman. Yeah. But so is Fatal Attraction, by the way. I slept with the wrong woman. Still the same thing.
Yeah.
Basic Instinct is more. That had the huge.
You know what?
Gay, right?
I don't remember Basic Instinct that much. That's the one with Sharon spread legs and the ice pick, right?
Yes, the author. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll give you that it could be in our horror movies, maybe for one of our selections, because I would definitely. I would put Sisters in horror, and that's psychological horror. I would put Play Misty for Me in there, which is very similar to Fatal Attraction. It's where he ripped it off, basically. So I'll give you that. It can be horror if you want. It's what I would call, and Hitchcock even, Psycho. Same kind of horror. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so I didn't mean to digress.
No, you didn't digress at all. You're not a Verhoeven fan, but I am.
Not really.
But this specific film, I can't think. I was trying to look at keys. I can't think of another science fiction film that propagates war this way, in either positive or negative, which is what the book did too. The book was extremely military. It spends chapters and chapters just on the tech.
Oh, that sounds like
the drop ships and because in the book they wear these huge. One of my keys is Aliens.
Yeah,
Aliens is hugely influenced by Robert Heinlein and by this, in my opinion, this movie.
But too. I think Aliens is a much better movie than this.
Well, yes, it's a much better movie because we actually have actors and actresses who can act, and we care about their stories. It's not, it's not the cliche dialogue. It's not but I think that, again,
it's also not bright colored and pretty either. It's dark and gloomy and scary.
Yes. And I did see a quote in doing research for this from Verhoeven where he actually talked about the cinematography and said he wanted everything in this bright.
I can tell.
He wanted to shine a light on the military and how stupid they were. And I hate the cinematography in this movie. I think it's way overlit. I think it's bad soap opera. It looks terrible in places. But I love some of the production.
One of my keys is the production values look like John Carpenter's They Live.
Yes, that's actually really good. I could see that.
And actually, there's more to it that's similar to They Live as well, especially the newscast and stuff too, because it's all sensationalized or whatever.
Yeah,
But that was one of my keys.
I did like, let's talk about scenes then while we're talking about it. I did like the opening. I think that's a great way to hook an audience, is with this obviously over the top commercial that tells the whole history of the world that we're going to plunge you into now. This is what, get ready for it. And a huge key for that is, that's stolen directly from Triumph of the Will. It's almost like some of the shots are the same as in Triumph of the Will, the huge Nazi propaganda film. So, that's an incredible key for that. What about you? Scenes? What were some of your favorite scenes?
Well, my scenes are going to be, most of my scenes are going to be the monster scenes. I am arachnophobic. I do not like spiders of any kind. However, these monsters
I did not know that. I'd forgotten that about you.
Yeah. I'm big time arachnophobic. I would hold a snake before I'd hold a spider any day.
So arachnophobia needs to go on the list for next year. Or
or tarantula,
tarantula. Yeah.
But these monsters don't scare me because there's so many of them and they're so CGI'd. And that's another thing I would compare it with aliens. Even when they're overwhelmed with a swarm of aliens, it's scarier than when they're overwhelmed by this. You know what else I would compare this to? And I think I may have put it in my keys. If I didn't, I will, is World War Z. It's so impossibly overwhelming that you just don't believe it. You're just like, oh, come on.
So with that many zombies moving that fast, it's like a swarm and you don't get the fear factor.
Right.
Kind of like, it's what you're saying. Okay.
And very similar to World War Z, they start climbing up the dead bodies to get over a wall in World War Z. Very similar to the way the insects do in this movie.
Well, insects do that normally. Army ants do that anyway. So,
I think that's probably where they got the idea for the zombie thing too. And I'm not a fan of that movie either. But yeah, anything with the bugs, I love my favorite scene would probably be the giant bug when he jumps on it like in a rodeo and he's hacking away to get inside it. That would probably be one of my favorite scenes. And then puts the bomb in it and blows it up. That was great.
Okay.
I like the shower scene. There's plenty of candy in that shower scene.
How could you not? How could anybody not like the shower scene? It's awesome.
Yeah, it don't matter if you're gay or straight. There's plenty going around.
There's just something for everybody there. Welcome to Bachnal. Have a good time.
But I don't know if you've noticed, I've strategically placed these pictures behind me so that my head covers up Denise Richards because I think she is probably the worst actress in the world.
Well, let's just echo that with yes, that is very true. Yeah. Why she suddenly thinks that if I smile, I'm acting, I do not know. I must have in my notes 6 different times. Why is she smiling right now? It makes no sense.
Or when she doesn't have a line, she stands there with her mouth open.
Yeah.
I'm like, and she's got that resting bitch face. Casper Van Dien is not Marlon Brando, but he is pretty and he can act. The same with the other two in that picture. I can't think of their names. The gay guy Harris and the other girl.
Neil Patrick Harris is always great.
Right. Everyone else in this movie was fine. He cast, what's her name? Denise Richards, because she's good looking and she's terrible. I can't. So that's another reason why I don't like this movie. It's a popcorn movie, but
that's a vastly good reason to not like this movie. Because she has so much screen time too, and she's terrible.
An essential character, and she's terrible.
And especially when you compare her to Diz, who is not only better looking, she's a much better actress, and her part is more interesting in it. Her reasons, other than she has the horn dog on for Johnny Rico, the whole damn movie is
she does. Yeah.
From the first shot, she's sitting behind him, just staring at him in class. And I'm like, well, and that's the other thing too. Those are some mighty mature looking high school seniors.
I was
just got to tell you.
They're all in like their late 20s. Yeah.
Easy. If that was a college course, I could have understood, but no, it was just terrible, terribly cast for that. I agree with you. I think the bug scenes are great. I think the gore works really well throughout the movie. I disagree with a lot of people who say, "Ooh, this movie has terrible effects and it's bad CGI." I don't think so. I think the CGI is really good.
It is good. It is good.
And very effective the way he combines that with actual puppets and actual props, where they're like leaning on a piece of a bug while they're shooting at them coming, and it's an actual prop piece there. I love the bug designs. I think it's really interesting that as the movie evolves, we see more of the bug culture, which actually happens in the book a little bit, but in the book, basically by the time the book starts and we're following, his name I think is because he is from Buenos Aires in the novel, but he's actually South American in the novel. His name is like Juan Rico, not Johnny Rico. But they already know the whole bug hierarchy. They know there's a brain bug out there somewhere for each of the pods of the bugs, and that they're kind of fighting them. They're also much more spider. They're also much more spider-like in the book. This is much more praying mantis-y, insectoid sort of thing. They
raise up a lot.
Yeah. And they have really sharp legs. All of their legs, all 6 of them are really freaking sharp. Plus this thing they've got that they can pinch with, that they can actually bite through metal. I mean, but I love that evolution because we see the grunts first. Then we see the plasma squirters.
Oh, yeah.
Which are actually shooting plasma into the sky. Then we see the tanks, like you mentioned, the ones that can shoot flamethrowers and are huge. Then the flyers.
Yeah, incoming.
Yeah. And then the attendant little, drones, I called them, the little bitty squiggly crawly ones that support the brain bug. And
did they have these many different types in the book as well?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. Because it is a monster movie. For sure.
It is. And I actually like one of my scenes in is I like the fort scene in it. I think that's a well done sequence.
Oh, I don't have a problem with it. I was just saying it was a key to World War Z, or actually World War Z was from it, because the book World War Z is nothing like the movie. In the book, they're slow moving, like Romero zombies.
Okay.
Yeah. So Brad Pitt totally changed that. Brad Pitt and whoever else was responsible for that.
Okay. Cast?
I like that scene. Cast, yeah, we can talk cast.
Okay.
I don't. I mean, I don't have a lot of alternatives, but I do have some that are better than Denise Richards. Originally, just out of the blue, I don't know what part he auditioned for, but apparently Bobby Cannavale auditioned for a part and didn't get it. That's the guy, him. He's like a character actor.
Yeah.
He was one of Will's boyfriends on Will and Grace. He played a cop. But for Casper Van Dien's part of Johnny Rico, apparently Mark Wahlberg turned it down. And I could see him in that part. He may have been better. But, I mean, I didn't have a problem with Casper at all.
No, I had a problem with his scripted lines at times.
Okay.
But I think his delivery and emotional arcs work for me.
I think he's distracting because he's like impossibly beautiful. It's distracting how good looking he is. It's like his face is perfect.
Yeah, it's the way Rob Lowe used to be in the 80s.
That's it, exactly.
It's that you see a big line of people and suddenly that face is the one you notice.
Right. And it's not that I'm attracted to him personally. It's just distracting because he's so pretty.
I've got, all right, why is it that Van Dien never has helmet hair? His hair is always perfect. Takes his
He's
helmet off,
always
and looks
tan too.
just gorgeous.
Oh, and I was, well, I'll get to this in a minute. Ask me later about something else I like about the movie, and I'll tell you.
Okay.
James Marsden, Keanu Reeves, Mark Wahlberg, Josh Brolin, and Jason Priestley were all considered. So Keanu, no. But
Marsden,
some of those others could have probably done it.
James Marsden could have done it.
Matt Damon auditioned, but it was before he had cred, I guess, with Good Will Hunting.
Yeah.
And he would have been good too. And he's not that pretty. I don't have anyone else for Dizzy, and she was great. She kind of reminded me of like Katherine Heigl. I don't know. The whole time I was watching her, I was like, she looks familiar to me, but I don't know.
Yeah, but she didn't do anything. I looked up, and when she did some television, some movies, but nothing else big. And it seems like she should have gone places because she was really good.
Very much more than Denise Richards, who is rightfully on one of those housewife shows now, because that's where she belongs.
Well, and Casper Van Dien really didn't do a lot after this movie. Right?
Okay. I mean, no. And is he from another country? Because every once in a while, I thought I heard a trace of an accent.
I thought so too, but I didn't research it, so I don't know.
Denise Richards' part of Carmen, apparently Neve Campbell and Rebecca Gayheart were both considered, but both were busy doing Scream 2.
Well, and didn't Neve and Denise, because they're, I know them from the pool scene and what's the movie where they're both together?
Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, Bad Girls or
Wild
Bad
Things.
Twins or Wild Things. That's it.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that once too. Don't remember it.
Yeah, I do though. But so,
Neil Patrick Harris's part of Carl. No one else was considered, I guess, for Ace Livy, which is Jack Busey's part. I mean, Jake Busey. And honestly, he's better than his dad.
Oh my gosh, yes. I have that in my notes too. He's much better than his dad, although he looks a lot like him. But
he does look a lot like him. But and then some guy, I don't know who this. I think I looked him up and recognized him. But Tom Everett Scott was up for the role that Neil Patrick Harris got.
Carl?
Yes, yeah. Carl Jenkins. I don't know who that actor is, but I like Neil Patrick Harris, and he has gone on to prove that he can do a lot. I mean, he's got chops.
Well, I like him for two things. I can see here he was still trying to live down the Doogie Howser kind of thing.
He's so young looking.
But he's an incredible host of anything. He's really good because he's so talented. I really liked him in How I Met Your Mother. I thought that was a great role for him, and he enjoyed that and had a lot of time with that. But, I like him because he's Dr. Horrible in Dr. Horrible Sing-Along Blog, which is written by Joss Whedon. So it's really 3 parts of musical fun.
I like him because he was cast in Hedwig and the Angry Inch on Broadway.
And was great in it.
And he's just, he can do more than just movies. And that's always impressive to me because it's a totally different world. And
so different. In the book, they basically never run into each other again. They don't keep running into each other all over the galaxy like this movie.
No, and when he comes in at the end, it's almost staged a little bit to me.
Yeah, Diz is actually a guy in the book. And Carl, I think, dies halfway through after he reveals the whole psychic connection to the bugs in the book. I'm pretty sure Carl dies. But it is the story of Juan Rico, and we're following him, but it's much more of a memoir sort of thing in the book. It's more of his POV all the way, and it's his way of telling the story kind of thing, as opposed to this, which is obviously a propagandist piece all the way through.
Especially when Neil Patrick comes in the end and he's wearing full Gestapo gear.
Oh yeah. Well,
that was crazy. It looked like, I don't know, it just looked out of place to me.
Yeah, little Himmler sort of thing. Yeah.
This movie also has other great genre actors in it. They weren't necessarily cast there weren't other selections for these parts, but one of them was Clancy Brown, who's been in about everything.
Yeah.
And then Seth Gilliam is in it, which kind of blew my mind because he plays Father Gabriel on The Walking Dead. And that's
okay. That was one of my questions. I said, isn't that dude in Walking Dead?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that was
and
true,
he's
right?
so young in this. I was like, damn, I barely recognized him. And then Patrick Muldoon, I don't really have any other casting notes on him, except he reminds me of that Hispanic model that David Farmer used to like. I can't think of his name. Anyway.
It reminds me of a...
Okay. You know who? Anthony Sabato. That's who I'm thinking of.
Oh, okay.
Anthony Sabato Jr. Wasn't he like an actor, but he was more known for being a model because he wasn't a great actor or something?
I think you're right.
Yeah. That's who Patrick Muldoon reminded me of. Michael Ironside is in this movie.
Oh my gosh.
I love him. He is great in just about anything.
He's an icon. I mean, in everything. He just, he's that, I'm going to chew to me, he's a very Nicholson Shatner sort of personality.
Yeah.
You are going to remember me in this part, damn it.
Yeah. And if not, my head exploded in Scanner. So just remember that.
Just remember that. In this one, I got one arm.
Yeah. And then he gets his legs chewed off too. It's gross.
Yeah.
He got this part because he had already worked with Paul Verhoeven on Basic Instinct, apparently.
Yes.
And then
he's in Total Recall.
And then last but not least, most improbable casting award goes to Rue McClanahan for playing the biology teacher.
The blind one?
Yes, that is Rue McClanahan.
Okay, I didn't recognize that at all.
There is a golden girl in this movie.
My gosh.
And she's the pretty one.
And she's the pretty one. Okay, I did not recognize her then in that.
Actually, there's one more. Another genre guy. Marshall Bell is in this. He's the gay gym teacher from Nightmare on Elm Street 2. And he was in something else we did not long ago. He has a very brief role as a cowardly general that ends up getting killed pretty quick.
Yeah, and people will recognize him as a character actor. Yeah, they'll see that.
Right.
Well, I recognized Amy Smart in this. Why? She's young and she's blonde. Of course, I know.
I saw her at the end, but I didn't know who she was. I was like, I know her, but I don't know who you are.
And she's just done a bunch of comedies. She was in she was in Butterfly Effect, but she was a bunch of comedies. She did Varsity Blues and Road Trip. So she did a bunch of comedies in the 2000s. And I always remembered her for that. But I recognized her in that first scene because she's Carmen's co-pilot when she first starts being training and everything else.
Okay. I remember seeing, she comes back in at the end too, doesn't she? Yeah.
And they mention her like it's in the propaganda. If you could be like, pilot
exactly.
so-and-so.
She's got it's like curtain call.
Yeah.
Right.
And I remember the commander too, the female commander of it, and
she looked really familiar to me, and I couldn't
place her anywhere else. I'm the same way. I could not place her, but she looked really familiar. I think maybe she's done some Star Trek or some television or something that I remember her for, but I don't know.
I don't have her in my list.
But I thought another element of this, kind of along with that casting thing, is okay, 2 of your 4 principal leads are female. One sucks and one's really good. But females in general, for this to be, because, Verhoeven's been called a sexist and a misogynist in places.
I could see that.
Especially for Basic Instinct, especially for Showgirls and all that. But yet, females in this hierarchy of this are treated very much as equals. They're in the shower together as co-eds. They're the new Sky Commander turns out to be a female, and she's the one that conducts the big attack. Females are portrayed in this. There's a female captain aboard the fleet. Several female captains, actually, you're seeing.
If he was trying to do that to right any complaints of his past films, they probably got vastly under. I mean, they probably weren't seen because it's a science fiction movie. I mean, science fiction movies generally are not that big with the general public. So he could have been doing that as an apology or as a no, I'm not, and no one really ever saw it.
Could have been, yeah. I also think this has a lot of personal stake for Verhoeven because he was from the Netherlands, but he survived Nazi Germany.
Okay.
So this, I think, is a passion project sort of for him to show that fascism and militarism and going to war is not the best things for a society to do, sort of thing.
Yeah. Back to what you were saying, though, as far as diversity,
Mm-hmm.
I told you to ask me about something I do like about this film. And what I do like about this film is that it's portrayed as a global alliance.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I kept thinking, why are they in Buenos Aires when his parents are clearly white and not Hispanic at all?
Right.
And that kind of confused me. But then I started realizing, oh, the cast is multicultural. It's not, like an old propaganda Nazi film where it's just white people. There's black people and white people, Asian people, and men and women. And so to me, I liked that aspect of the film. I thought he did a good job showing a future that I long for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, showing a unified,
global,
diverse sort of
or
world.
Or not thinking America, thinking more the world.
Right.
Yeah. So
I mean, I think that's a really good element too. That's a good angle. The diversity of the casting, it's like I kind of said, it goes along with what I said about the whole females. Females are considered equal in this. You
They
grab
are.
a gun, you're going to be a soldier. Here you go, boom.
But you can't be in this movie unless you're beautiful.
Well, but yes, everybody has
that's
to
male
be
or
beautiful.
female.
Yeah, male or female, it doesn't matter. Have to be beautiful. Now, and we've talked about nudity. This movie was known, and I think on the VHS circuit, you had to watch it for the shower scene, kind of thing. Did you read the trivia about that scene?
I read that. Are you talking about him and his cameraman or whatever?
And the cinematographer? Yeah.
Yeah, they got naked to make
Yep.
them feel more at ease. I question that.
Well, I don't necessarily know if it made anybody feel more at ease.
No.
But Dina Meyer, who plays Diz, actually challenged Verhoeven and said, because Paul was like going, it's nothing. Go ahead and do it. And she's going, if it's nothing, why don't you do it? So he said, sure. And he took his clothes off and did it, for that scene. So there you go. One of the trivia things from this movie.
Well, and he's European, and they're less uptight about nudity.
True.
A lot of them. So
true. I think another thing I like about the movie, of course, I think it has great opticals. I think the spaceships look great. The fighting looks good. I like the production design of the armor and some of the.
It's very Stormtrooper-esque.
Very, but also looks like a modern offshoot. I mean, you could take this armor and put it in Aliens, and it would still work.
It looks
very
plastic
similar
to me, though.
Yeah, I could see that, and the weapons too tend to be a little plastic looking, or a little bit. I mean, because they're tossing these huge rifles around like they're light as anything.
This is a stupid key of mine, and only I will have it, but it's King Kong Lives, because I did a movie where I was an extra in the military running around in a helmet with guns, and those guns are plastic and light, and the helmets are too.
Yeah. So, makes sense. That's a great key.
Yeah. But to me, it reminded me more of the Stormtrooper armor, because those look plastic to me too.
Well, Stormtrooper armor definitely looks plastic because it's all shiny too. But I like, other than a very dated kind of feel to it. I mean, this is supposed to be 200 years in the future, and it feels like it's only like 20, maybe. Everybody still has big bullets. The cars all kind of look like bad theme park ride vehicles. Like when they're in the shuttles and stuff, it looks like, oh, this could have been a theme park ride.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to. At the time, the computer stuff, like we were saying, click here if you want to see more and stuff. I mean, that definitely reminds me that it was ahead of its time as far as that. But you're right. Some of the other stuff didn't look really that futuristic at all.
They pilot the ship with like a steering wheel kind of thing, which didn't work. And all of the computer graphics are terrible. They look like bad Microsoft early Windows stuff. I love the opticals.
Like The Thing and X-Files.
Yes, definitely. I've got, is that the guy from Walking Dead in my notes? Let's see. So Tim, how do you feel about Paul Verhoeven's love for just a field of mutilated bodies? There must be like 5 different times in this movie the camera's pulling back to just show a bunch of mutilated bodies.
Lots of gore. Yeah. People just ripped to pieces. Yeah. I mean, it's okay. Again, it falls into that category of popcorn movie where it's so crazy it's not believable, but you can just kind of check your brain at the box office and enjoy it.
Well, interesting, because so I ask you this from a storytelling perspective then. Do you think he desensitized stuff so much that we don't get emotionally invested in it in any way? In other words, his cast is so plastic, his dialogue is so trite, the gore is so explicit that we don't really feel anything for it. You know what I mean?
Are you telling me, is that intentional, like a propaganda thing? It could be.
No. Do you think that's an error of the filmmaker? Like, for example, there are people, and me, I think the first time for me too, but there are people that get teared up in Armageddon when Bruce is saying goodbye. And, and she's touching the screen with her necklace and everything else. And he's going, I'm not going to be able to keep that promise, baby. And, and it's genuinely emotional. There's none of that here. We don't care when Diz dies. We don't care when other characters die, because we're not emotionally invested in them. And their dialogue and photography is terrible.
Well, I will agree with that. I'm not really emotionally invested in any of them. And I wanted Denise Richards to die badly.
That might have been emotional, but we don't know. But the wrong way, we would have gone, yay!
Yeah, but then her boyfriend gets killed and everybody's happy because, they like Casper.
Yeah.
And the football, man, that scene where they play football on like linoleum, what the fuck, man?
Yeah,
that was crazy.
And in a field that looks like it's about 30 yards wide, and yet they keep treating it.
It looked like Morristown West gym.
Yes, it looks like it was shot in a gym.
Yeah,
it was terrible.
And that's supposed to be future football. I was like, I don't think so.
Baby. Well, future football in high school. Not in Rio, not NFL, our global FL, I guess it would be.
Back to your question about desensitizing, though, I don't know if that was done intentionally or not. I think Verhoeven likes to do things big. I think he wants to do everything big, pretty, and over the top. And I think that's why he casts pretty over acting. I think that's why the opticals and special effects are off the charts. I think that's why the gore is off the charts. And I think when you get so much extreme, it does desensitize you, and you do feel less for these cardboard characters. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. But like, I compare it to, people in this movie get like an arachnid tusk through their chest or something, or in their legs. There's a lot of let's pierce your femoral artery here kind of things.
It looks rough.
I cringed or pulled or had more visceral reaction when, the dude in The Thing cuts his thumb with the scalpel than I do in this.
Well, I can give you a better example. any of the side characters in Aliens, like when Hudson goes down or when Vasquez goes down. You care about that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, okay. That's a good comparison too. And that's what I meant. Is it this, he just doesn't know how to sensitize characters in order to, in a storytelling way, so we actually care about them? Because Showgirls, we don't care about anybody. I don't really care about the characters in Total Recall. I do care about the lead character in RoboCop. I will say that. And I think the villains in RoboCop are genuinely mean, and I don't like them.
Okay.
And so there's a little bit more better storytelling, more better.
This may apply to it too. As far as my dislike of Paul Verhoeven, RoboCop's a good movie. This is a decent movie. What's the other sci-fi he did?
Total Recall, the one based on
Total Recall's fine. It's got Arnold in it, but there's just another pretty guy that can't act. He's cold. There's something cold that distances me from his films, and that's why I appreciate them, but I don't go back. I don't think I've seen RoboCop more than once. Yeah,
there is a detachment to it. Even in Basic Instinct, there's a detachment. We don't care about Catherine Trammell, the girl that Stone plays. We don't really care about Michael Douglas. So I can understand that. I
think that's got something to do with it.
And it's even more hyperbole here because it is so inflated. We definitely don't care because we don't care about the characters from the opening commercial. They're cartoons. So how could we care about them?
I cared more about Michael Ironside and Marshall Bell than I did any of the leads.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I cared about Diz because she was hot. But, that was just
I just think they're better actors, and you relate to them just like you relate to the guy that played Hudson or the girl that played Vasquez in Aliens, Hicks, whoever. They're just, I don't know. They had better lines. They had better relatability.
There's a pace thing too. There's moments in Aliens where we get to know them, whether it's Hicks and Ripley when he's trying to show her the weapon and they're both telling stories to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing. There's moments that we like. We get to know.
I remember the lines from that movie. One-way elevator to hell, or one-way express elevator to hell, going down.
Going down. Yeah, man. Let's put her in charge.
You just don't forget that. It's a great script.
Right.
That being said, I'll say again, James Cameron was actually attached to direct this movie at one time.
I can see.
You think it would have been better?
Yeah, I think it would have been better, but I don't think it would have had the gore effects. I don't think it would have had he would definitely not have gone the propagandist way. I think he would have tried to tell Heinlein's story.
I also think that he turned it down because he saw how it could look a lot like Aliens with and stuff. He probably said, you know what, I need to do something different.
Yeah.
The
biggest thing about Starship Troopers, the book, is the power suits, which he kind of took, Cameron kind of took in every other movie he's done. But these great big power suits that they are actually, so, in the movie, they come down in that drop ship, which is very Aliens, and, Aliens took that. But in the novels, they're in these huge ultra power suits and they all fall individually and land, and they're ultra armored, ultra powered, and they're able to, pick up boulders and throw them and all that kind of stuff.
Cool. Like Ant-Man.
Would have been interesting to see them fighting the arachnids, in these power suits. And I always thought when I was watching the movie, I don't see power. Maybe that'll come at the end. In the big final onslaught, they'll have the power suits. But no, they didn't. They just kind of...
No, it's all guns.
Got covered. Yeah, and that's a mistake, too. All of their weaponry is really still bullets.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the nitpick things for me is, they established from the beginning it takes like 6 people 30 seconds of continuous fire to kill one of these bugs. And in
I
the
know.
background, there are 300,000 of them. It'd be like, you guys don't have a prayer. Just run away now.
Right.
Not going to make it.
And
You
there's
don't
a
have enough
scene where
bullets.
Doogie Howser, I can't forget, Carl, says you have to hit the neuro center or whatever. You can't just
brainstem.
blast its legs off. You're not going to kill it.
Right.
But I mean, that's a very small target, I guess, because they're never hitting it.
Yeah, they're worse than stormtroopers. That's
Right.
the key. They just don't hit it.
Well, I mean, they're hitting them, but they're just blasting, body parts off, and they're still coming at them or whatever.
Well, until the end, when they're defending the cave, and suddenly 3 shots from one kills one, and they start stacking up bodies of arachnids. I'm going, what suddenly happened to your weapons? How did they suddenly work now? So yeah, there's some inconsistencies, but like you said, for popcorn, it works.
Yeah. There are a lot of big name fans of this movie. Martin Scorsese, Joel and Ethan Coen, and Oliver Stone all love this movie, as does President Bill Clinton.
Well,
so
I like it because it has girls in it. But yeah,
I think it's because, I think Oliver Stone and Bill Clinton like it probably because it's like a war movie. But I don't know why Scorsese and the Coens got into it. That doesn't seem like they're.
I would think both of them like it for the style. It's a different style that you cannot say you've seen anywhere else.
Or the whole looking like propaganda satire.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Scorsese is such a cinephile and an instructor and a teacher of movies and cinema in general, not just American, but French and Italian and all of that. And the Coen brothers have developed with each project their own style of filming, of cinematic language. And I think that makes sense. Both of them would like this because, I mean, I was trying to key and go, okay, what movie would be similar to this? What is a propagandist war movie that I can think of? And even going back to the John Wayne stuff, like Green Berets and all that, I couldn't think of one that totally fulfills this, because the Green Berets was saying, America wins, we're the best, we're greatest.
That's good. I'm going to put that as a key.
Kind of attitude. And I couldn't think of an anti-war movie. I mean, there are movies that show, Saving Private Ryan is, this is
Well,
bad.
I mean, Platoon is an anti-war war movie, but not in a propaganda kind of way.
Platoon didn't say war was, I mean, no, I mean,
I know what you mean. I think you mean more in like a documentary propaganda style. Most movies are anti-war movies, unless you're John Wayne.
Well, I would think, Coppola, Apocalypse Now.
Apocalypse Now.
It's probably the closest to an anti-war huge movie.
And that's adapted from Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, and it's not even about Vietnam.
No. But it was definitely became the anti-Vietnam War movie.
Yeah.
That's Full Metal Jacket. Sure. Full Metal. Okay, maybe a big key then, or one of my biggest keys would be Full Metal Jacket, because it's Kubrick's anti-war movie told in a very stylistic manner.
I could see that. I actually have one that you're going to laugh at. We won't jump into keys immediately, but one key I'll throw at you that I thought it was an officer and a gentleman. The whole bringing up the recruits and stuff with the sergeant, the whole sergeant dynamic with Clancy and Casper. I was like, this is, Richard Gere and what's his face?
Louis Gossett Jr.
All over again. I was like,
yeah, I could see that. I could see, yeah. The DI would be another one. That's that's the movie I was trying to think of that I couldn't remember that you showed me, and I hated that movie. I was like, fuck that job. I'm out. But now I'm back to my other one. That's a very propagandist war movie, because it's all about basic training and recruits and you're scum, you're nothing. Yeah. I know. And I'm so anti that. I'm the big rebel. I'm like, fuck you, I'm out. Yeah. There would be like as soon as what is it, Sergeant Zim, I think, because he became Private Zim. But as soon as Clancy says, "Da da da," you will walk that walk of shame. You go, bye.
I'm later. Bye bye for now.
You would be gone.
Oh hell yeah. Well, who was the lead in the DI?
Jack Webb is the sergeant.
Maybe that's not what I'm thinking of. You showed me some movie at one time where people were getting beat down in basic training, and I was like, there is no way I would do
Full
that.
Metal Jacket, the whole opening in Full Metal Jacket, it's like a 14-minute shot of him just
it wasn't that either.
Humiliating those people.
Yeah.
Choke yourself. Not with your hand, with my hand.
Yeah.
You know, F. Lee Ermey just said, here's what drill sergeants do.
No. I'm a huge John Wayne fan, but it's the Westerns. I don't do the war movies hardly at all.
No, there's no point. No, really.
No. I was going to go into awards.
Sure.
And tell you that this movie was actually nominated for one Academy Award, and that was Best Visual Effects. Yeah. Do you know what beat it?
God, I hope I'll be happy. What?
Titanic.
Oh my God.
I don't like that movie either, but it is James Cameron, which I find ironic after our conversation comparing this to Aliens.
Well, I also, there would be no way if I was voting, I would vote Titanic above this for visual effects. I think Titanic recreated a boat, for God's sake. And look at what this one did. It has different planets, different.
Yeah, but David, that boat, it cracked in half.
Yeah, it did.
And
we knew it was going to happen.
Vortex that pulled everything down in it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It would only win special effects because that door couldn't hold both of them. That was the only special effect in the movie. Was, Jack, you couldn't climb on up there? Come on, buddy. Rose.
As far as other awards, it won Saturn Awards from the Academy of SF, Fantasy, and Horror Films.
Sure,
it won Best Costumes, so those plastic armors turned somebody on, and Best Special Effects. It was nominated for Best Sci-Fi Film, Best Director, and Best Writer. Oh, well, maybe the propaganda stuff.
Yeah, maybe.
But I don't have any other awards. I just thought it was interesting that it was nominated for an Academy Award.
Yeah, I'm curious what else was nominated that year besides Titanic and this.
I should have wrote them all down. I just looked up the winner just to see.
Right.
It was 97. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
I have a shit ton of clues. I mean, of keys that, and some of them we've already said.
Well, go on out there.
Do you want me to go?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I first put Robert Heinlein, question mark, because I was wanting to ask you the similarities between the book and the movie, which you've pretty much already covered.
And there's a lot more. You can find them on YouTube. There's actually a couple of I think, probably people that say, okay, let's go through the differences. There's a lot more like the whole arachnid culture in the book is very urban. They have cities and civilization and stuff. They're not a bunch of, just crawling in the desert kind of thing. So that's a major change from the book. Lots of character changes, of course. Like I said, Diz is not a girl. Johnny is from Buenos Aires, sort of thing. And just an overall sentiment of the story. It's much more personal story in the book.
Is it pronounced Heinlein or Heinlein?
I've always said Heinlein, but I've also heard people say Heinlein.
That's why I don't know how to pronounce it. It's spelled like Heinlein, and I've heard people pronounce it that way, and that's why I always say it that way, if you're wondering.
Yeah, so either way works.
Okay. I have Mars Attacks for the humor, because there is some funny stuff in this movie at times.
Mm-hmm.
And it just because it's so outrageous, I guess. And Mars Attacks is so outrageous. We've never done a Tim Burton movie. We should put some Tim Burton movies on the list, like the original Batman.
Yep, we should.
Yeah,
I could see that. I could definitely see Mars Attacks for the humor element. It's the bugs, Johnny. They thumped us.
My favorite line in the whole movie is they sucked his brain out.
They sucked his brain out.
Yeah, when they said that, I had to rewind it and watch it like twice. I was like, that's hilarious. Who wrote this?
Yeah, I actually have that in my quotes. I have they sucked his brains out, and I have, what was the other one? Human, not insect.
Right. And you were talking about gore. I can see all those dead bodies everywhere, but when you start sticking your fingers in some guy's head, I'm like, whoa, that's gnarly.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I also put Star Wars because anytime you saw ships flying into frame, it reminded me of the opening shot of Star Wars.
Yeah, they did a lot of that style that was still going on there, of the big, huge fleets in motion, slowly passing kind of thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I already mentioned that it reminded me of They Live a bit, the John Carpenter movie of not too much earlier. You were talking about those those things that are like commercials. What do they call it? It's not Skynet, but whatever it is.
FedNet, the interstitials.
Right.
That they have. Yeah.
When they did that one with the psychic, he looked like John Edwards, the psychic at the time that was really big.
Oh, I didn't think that, but you're totally right. Yeah.
He had a goatee, but he still looked like him. I was like, that looks like that John Edwards guy that used to be on like late night television all the time.
Oh my God, what a con guy. Yes, I remember that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he's
that.
Still
And
out
what was
there.
the other one? The lady, you could call her and she would read she was a
Madam something.
Well. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry. That's great.
It wasn't Sonia Fitzpatrick. She had her own show, The Pet Psychic.
Yes, I know. Pet Psychic or whatever.
A lot of this music sounds like pre-show music for a Disney ride.
It's terrible.
When you're in the room waiting to get on the ride and they're showing you the movie, they play music and it sounds like music that's in this movie.
And if I especially paid attention to it this last rewatch, and this music is completely unmemorable in there is no thematic to it. There is no theme. There is nothing and that's another reason why I don't think we have that connection, which we could have. Johnny could have had a theme, or he and Diz could have had a theme, or even he and, God forbid, Carmen. But, something that helps us emotionally connect in some of these scenes
on an audible level. I get it. I get
almost
it totally.
Subliminal undertone, but we don't. I mean, what's the theme song to Starship Troopers? Nobody knows. There's no theme song.
No, but it sounds a lot like music you hear when you're walking into Epcot.
Yep, I totally agree.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's formulaic to give you a presence, but not an emotional. That's a great one. That's a good key.
I put war movies because I couldn't think of any but Officer and a Gentleman at the time. But you have since said the Green Berets, Full Metal Jacket, and the DI, which, this is definitely
Apocalypse Now. Definitely needs to be in there too.
This is a war movie. It's just a science fiction war movie.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, to your popcorn point, a lot of people watch it just for a war movie. Will Johnny and his gang kill the bugs?
Yeah, kill the aliens.
Cool. Shoot them, man. Shoot them in the head.
Do you have others? I've got one other that I can think of.
I've got one other that it's kind of a weird offshoot, but it reminded me of as soon as I saw it, was Galaxy Quest. Because in Galaxy Quest, when Timmy first takes the ship out, the real ship that the actor is trying to pilot, and he hits the whole side of the space station and hits it, and it makes that's kind of like when Carmen first takes the ship out and it's turning and it's about to hit, and the captain and her boyfriend, everybody start looking at her like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then she barely gets it out because she's so good.
And even later, she breaks the top of it off.
Well, but you can't help that. There was an asteroid hurling toward Earth.
Bug asteroid,
yes. Sent by bug plasma.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was another thing that bothered me. Just two things that bothered me militaristically for a war movie where, okay, so the first time intelligence told us that they do shoot plasma, but it'll be minimal and no damage. And they almost got the whole fleet wiped out. So the next time we come in, we do the same thing again and we get our ship cut in half and all the other ships are being killed. Didn't we learn from that? You know, it's kind of like, oh, and then the first attack, the pronouncement they say. So then the next shot shows the fleet of what do you call them? Fleet of things coming in and bombing all of them. Cool. But we don't do that again before the fort. We don't bomb the shit out of these guys before we, where's the Air Force? Come on, boys.
Yeah, I was going to say, in that first time, I think when they encounter the enemy, they get, when they have to fall back, they get obliterated because they don't go in with any tactical at all.
At all.
No.
We're just shooting bugs. Come on, let's go.
Right. Yeah. And all of a sudden, everybody's dying.
Yeah, that didn't work. No.
No.
So learn from that, boys, but they don't really. So
the scene where Casper Van Dien I like the scene actually when he's messing with the guy's helmet and the guy gets killed and then they punish him. That reminds me of Roots because they tie him up and literally whip him.
Yes. I had one that you just gave me, which is Dawn of the Dead, because we have our lead character talking to another character, and then 2 seconds later he gets shot in the head.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Which is that scene, and also a semi nightmare, but not really, but also an homage to Heinlein. The scene at the beginning in the classroom where the Ironsides character is spouting all of this propagandist for the state and how violence is has solved more problems than any other method in history, all of that kind of stuff. Almost all of that is directly from the book. That is in the book. The teacher in the book, who is a separate character than the head of the Roughnecks. That's not two different. That's two different characters in the book. But the teacher does espouse all of that philosophy as, that's the best way to become a citizen, is to be militaristic and be violent and defend your country and all of that. So all of that is from the book, but it's also like in, Nightmare on Elm Street, when the teacher is giving the whole plot through Hamlet in the dream sleep sort of thing.
I'm going to be having all these damn clues or keys in there, and people are going to be like, really? Nightmare on Elm Street?
I don't get Nightmare on Elm Street now. I don't get it. This is God.
Yeah, exactly. I have one other that's not my own. I copied and pasted it.
Yes.
Thought it was weird. It's called, there's a Seattle indie rock band called Minus the Bear that uses quotes from this film as their song titles, including "You kill bugs, good man," "Damn bugs whacked us, Johnny," and "You're some kind of big fat smart bug, aren't you?"
There you go. That's
like,
a good
what
title for
are
a
those
song.
songs about?
Yeah. Well, the actually the lines in the fort, lines like "Do you want to live forever?" or a lot of that. Supposedly, I read a lot because I've never seen it, but a lot of those lines are directly taken from the movie Zulu, which was about a group coming along upon a fort and then trying to defend it from an onslaught.
Wasn't that Sean Connery?
Zulu? I don't. Maybe
he did a Zulu movie, I think.
Zulu.
I don't know.
But supposedly that's a key, that they actually took a lot of those sequences or that scene and the dialogue from Zulu.
Interesting.
That was I think the last one I have.
Yeah, I don't have any others. So in closing, I guess we would both recommend this movie for entertainment purposes.
Mm-hmm. I think for entertainment, for pretty people, for
titillation.
gore, if you like gore. It is
violence.
a check your helmet off your pretty head at the beginning of the movie and just
check your brain out.
Suck your brain out and watch this movie.
I mean, I would agree. I would put this in like the category of Independence Day in a heartbeat, or Armageddon.
Yeah, it's a popcorn movie. It's a fun ride if you want to just go and watch some craziness. But underneath it, he was trying to, I think, say a lot more than Independence Day and Armageddon say. He was trying to make some huge statements about societies and militarism and racism and fascism and all that. You know, the only good bug is a dead bug kind of thing. And he missed the mark, I think, but I think he was wanting to do a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Was this a big hit? I can't remember.
No, didn't make a lot of money at all. It got more money the longer it's been out. More people found it on VHS. More people began to appreciate it because it got a lot of bad reviews saying that it was a fascist movie.
Yeah, I seem to remember that.
And so a lot of people didn't want to go see. Oh, I'm not going to go see a thing that says Nazis are cool. And he wasn't saying that at all. But there you go. Nowadays, it'd probably be very popular if it was a fascist movie. Storm the Capitol. Come on. Capitol's full of bugs.
Well, that being said, I guess we are closing. For any of those of you that might have noticed, this was our third big bug movie in a row. If you include the host being a bug, it's not really a bug. It's kind of a fish monster. But we decided to do 3 movies in a row with big, ugly bug monster things. So we're going to move on from that next week into, I think, back into devil territory. In the meantime, I did want to remind everybody, and I meant to do this at the beginning, to check out Letterboxd. That's LETTERBOXD. It is sort of a social app for movie watching. It's similar to Book Reads, and you can kind of create your own library of movies you've seen. You can review them. You can talk about them with other people. David and I are both on there. My handle is Smith Tinky, but you will see the Johnny Has the Keys logo as my picture. I have been adding everything we cover on there, as well as these little gems like the loved ones that I talked about earlier. Sometimes I add them before they've aired. So you could also go there and figure out like what a future episode might be. So there's also that. But it's not caught on hugely, but I think it's getting bigger. So I think it's a good idea that we're on there.
It's a great app because like, you know, hopefully cinephiles like us, you know, you listen to us and suddenly you're reminded of a movie, whether it's The DI or Full Metal Jacket or something. And maybe I want to go see that now. This is kind of like that in an app format where the friends you link with and the actual movies that you put in there that you have watched suddenly link to other movies and show you other movies. Yeah. Tim, what are you showing behind you in the video?
I started to put
YouTube?
Our logo, and then I thought, you know what? I might as well advertise my book while I'm here. That is my zombie book, David. That is also available on Amazon for any of you that are into undead zombie horror. And I also wanted to tell everybody, if you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe and ring the bell. If you are or have been listening to us for a while, please tell your friends about us. Like, review, and rate us on your podcast platform of choice. And reach out to us, you know, let us know. We are still finalizing movies for next year's list, and we're always apt to listen to other selections. So, and let us know. I guess that'll do us for this week. Are we out of here?
Yes, we're out of here. Let's go hunt some bugs.
All right, go hunt some bugs. Bye.
Bye.
You can't start the car. Johnny has the key.